Hey, check out this clip from the Pre-Patch podcast.
So we're talking about Astro Bot, game of the year, right? Absolutely going to be game of the year. Space Marine can kick rocks.
No.
Wukong can go,
What's Wukong?
go
Don't
jump
even
back in a tree because, god damn it,
Yeah.
Astro Bot. Okay.
Astro Bot.
For everybody that is not familiar, Bill, what is Astro Bot?
Astro Bot is Sony's newest attempt to create a mascot for the company, basically. This kind of started off with this is actually the third or fourth game in this series. There's originally the Playroom.
Technically.
Yeah, technically.
You can barely consider there were play tests and
Yeah,
tech
well,
demos.
so
The
there was the
PS5
Playroom,
Yeah.
which it introduced the bots.
Right.
And then there was the one for the PS5, and then there's the VR one, Astro Bot VR mission, and now we have the official Astro Bot
Yeah.
game.
I
So
don't know. I would consider this the first game in the series.
No, if
like,
you've never played the demo that they go through your whole like
Yeah,
controller and system,
it's
that is a
it's
game.
it's a
fucking
3-hour
game.
game.
If we are willing
right.
to say that Senua's Saga 2 was a game, then this is a game as well.
Yeah, exactly.
sure.
So
I won't argue.
but it's basically Sony trying to do a mascot style game with the bots from that type of thing. It also
trying to
has a
Mario.
ton. Yeah, they're trying to Mario. And also this game is just Sony coded to the teeth. Everything in this game is a PlayStation reference. There are levels in the game that you unlock from giant space triangles, circles, X's, and squares that you rescue from asteroids. All of the characters in the game are either Sony first party characters or games that were once upon a time Sony exclusive characters.
I heard there's some
Um,
deep cut. Like we're not going to talk about it because we don't want to ruin anybody's experience, right? Obviously,
Right.
everybody knows that God of War that they've touted that heavily.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's some also from what I've heard some very deep cuts into the Sony roster that they go.
Wildly deep. Like
Wow.
there's I would say
Like
probably
obscure.
yeah, there's 300
bordering on deeply obscure.
there's 300 official bots in the game. Or
Wow.
300 bots that you can get in the game. About 120 or so of them are Sony characters. And yeah, there are some wildly obscure, like back to like the Pixel era
Yeah.
and stuff that
I was gonna say,
I
does
had no
Sony
clue
have
who the fuck-
120 fucking IPs that they own? I didn't even know that.
I mean, a lot of the characters
It's-
are, yeah.
It's
like,
it's not just OP, or it's not just IPs that they own as well though. It's like IPs that they've had on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
right? This isn't just
yeah.
strictly
I know,
their
I'm
their
kidding.
own IPs.
Yeah, exactly. But getting all of that out of the way, a lot of people are saying yes, it's PlayStation Mario, and I can understand the resemblance. There's definitely a lot of mechanics and stuff that resemble and are. It's a platformer at the end of the day. It's a third person platformer. You can't vary that much from the person who originated 3D third person platforming, which was Mario.
Yeah.
So, that being said, I've been saying it for a while. It's something that I have talked to Brett about since the Switch came out and like Mario Odyssey and stuff like that. I wish that Nintendo would upgrade their hardware because I think their games would do or allow their games on other platforms because I feel like their games would do amazing on other platforms. And this 100% proves that correct. This, in my opinion, is more polished. There's more detail in it. And while it is, I wouldn't necessarily say it's more fun. It's more my speed than what a Mario game is. And the amount of detail that they are able to pack into this is wild. It's the only game in the PlayStation roster and that actually uses everything that the PS5 can do
Why are we dancing?
effectively.
By the way,
Why are we dancing? Because the tree's singing, the tree's singing to us.
That's funny. I think that's
Nice.
actually a good thing. Obviously that's a good thing. I think that's like why this game is doing so well too. Coming off of being a tech demo, it is it knows how to utilize everything. You know, it was already directly showing you how to utilize all like the features that the PlayStation could do, and now
Yeah.
you know you have a game full of that pretty much. So I think that's great. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and the features that you're talking about, can you want to explain like some of what those features are?
Yeah, so the biggest and one of the coolest things that I feel like sets PlayStation, PS5 and stuff apart from like Xbox and Nintendo and stuff like that is the DualSense 5 controller is full haptic enabled, and it does things like beyond what I thought was possible in a like handheld controller. Um Beyond like just standard vibration stuff, like whenever you walk through like a field of flowers, it feels like you can feel the individual like flowers hitting up against your character. If it's raining, you feel like little tippy taps on the top of the controller. If you're doing any action, you can there is a feedback to that action. There is noise that is coming out of the controller constantly that syncs up with what you're doing. Like every time I would like push these flowers out of the little elephant backpack, there's like a little that comes out of the controller. Like it is one of the most immersive experiences that I think is possible in gaming without having like a VR headset or a haptic suit or anything like that. And that's why I think this game is succeeding as much as it is. It is doing something so well in that immersion aspect that I genuinely don't think I think this is one of the few games out there that literally anybody that likes video games could pick up and have a good time with. Yes, it is very Sony coded, like almost obnoxiously so, but even without knowing anything about Sony or any of the Easter eggs that are popping up, the gameplay itself and how it like really makes you like invest you and like everything else disappears when you're playing this game. It's wild, and I haven't had that feeling in a very long time. So this is not only is like 3D platforming like very nostalgic to some people because a lot of people grew up in that era of gaming.
Yeah.
Uh,
Where I'm at.
it takes it to the next level that I
Yeah.
wish more game developers would take advantage of the PlayStation, like bring that level of immersion to.
I was actually just gonna say that because like I definitely grew up on like the platforming era of gaming, and they're games I love fondly, and I just haven't played them in a long time. But seeing this, like, really, it's giving me more than even Super Mario for me because I didn't play those like the new ones that introduced like the platforming. I played like more along the PlayStation ones. I played Spyro a lot. And this is giving me like that Spyro feel where you know because like that game too, you're collecting dragons and eggs and everything, just like this how you're collecting the bots. I like that a lot, and it's actually
Yeah.
It's making me want this, man. I don't even have like a PlayStation to play it. But
Unfortunately, with all that stuff that I mentioned before, there's no way that they could bring this to PC
yeah,
without,
there's not.
unless
Right.
Steam is able, unless
That's
Steam
not
is
true.
able.
Well,
It kind of is.
Kind of.
Well, I mean,
like,
they
they
just-
just
again, like-
dumbed down. It wouldn't be able to
Hold on.
utilize.
They just
Well, if
they
it-
just
yeah,
launched their
if you let us
PC
talk-
controller platform
that-
that
yeah.
allows you to have all of the haptic shit on your PC now.
Does it?
Yes.
I didn't know it
because
was
that's
gonna do all
coded.
the
That's
haptic.
coded into the game. It's not coded
But
into
you
the
would,
console.
but you would need a PS5 controller to do that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
All right, well,
Okay.
that's not. If that's the only thing that is holding you back, then that's
Yeah,
doable
that's
then.
what I was gonna get to. Is
Okay.
technically they can, but I don't know how many people are going to spend the $60 for the game and then also have a PlayStation controller on hand to take advantage of the haptics because there are segments of the game that are unplayable without the specific controller. Because
Yeah,
I don't think the Xbox controller or like the Steam game pads or anything like that have the functionality that the PlayStation controller has that is required for this game.
I mean, I don't think that they would. I'm just saying they could if they wanted to and make it a
Oh, they-
requirement. being
yeah,
like,
they
you know,
could.
You have to have the
They
controller.
could.
So
Yeah.
okay, I do have some questions and I have some some things, right? Because originally I was like, all right, let me go. Like, I'm gonna pick the game up. I'm gonna try it out. And
Why wouldn't you just try out the free game that's
No,
installed
no,
on the console?
I have played that.
Okay, and you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I mean it was fun. Like so this is kind of what I wanted to bring up, right? So you mentioned and I'm happy that you did because one of the things about it, so like I grew up during that platforming, right? And I know that I'm a minority in probably feeling like this, but I'm I want to clarify that I am very, very happy that a game company launched a game and it is, you know, perfectly done, like from a like standpoint of like, well, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to accomplish. Like, you know, it's not the, oh, it's trash, there's glitches, there's bugs, there's problems like what we normally get, or it's regurgitated shit. So happy about that. But I grew up during a time where like I played nonstop platforming games. So for me, I'm actually the opposite. I go at it and I'm like, okay, like I don't like the Mario. I don't like, because I don't want to go back and play those games. Like I had that for so many years as a kid. So like I like, and that's why I'm so hard into like multiplayer games, because for me, my first wow moment of like, oh my God, was like logging on and playing, you know, Ultima or whatever, and having that. Again, I'm a minority, but the other thing,
Right.
for me that I have a concern with, and I want to know if you have an answer or no. Like, I saw the price tag at this, and I was just like, I can't see spending $60 fucking on this, because it just
It's
seems
100% worth it. And
overpriced.
it's not even a little bit. The amount of detail and the amount of care that was put into this game is ridiculous. I think it's worth every bit of $60. I'm surprised and happy that they didn't go for the $70 price tag on it, because I
I
feel
was
like
about to say
that's
they
gonna
could have went
Yeah.
70, man.
yeah.
Well,
I'm surprised that they didn't, but it's in my opinion well worth the $60 price tag, just from the polish, the vision. This, if somebody had a vision for what they wanted with this game, I can't imagine it being anything but like perfect compared to what they were wanting. Like everything this game sets out to do, I feel like it has exceeded like expectation. I feel like it is exactly what it wanted to do. No corners cut whatsoever.
so okay, you brought up games of yesteryear, right? And whatever
Right.
else. So games of the past cost a lot of money, and you had to like get a lot of stuff out of it, like, because that was it. Like as a kid, man, you got one game maybe fucking every couple months, and that was all that you got, right? And
Right.
so you had to get that dollar value out of it. Do you feel and again, I know you give an unbiased, but I say this as a coverall of an unbiased opinion, do you feel that the game has enough content to work to be valued at 60? Take out all of like the tech stuff, like I get all that, the game is beautiful, whatever else, but like people bitched and moaned about you know, Hellblade Senua's Saga for being overpriced for what it was, for the length of what it was, because it was short. And I mean,
Right.
there were a few other things, but the main argument there was it was a short game. I have seen
Right.
some people, and we were talking about a pre-show, where some people have said, oh, there's, you know, 5 hours here. Then I've had other people, you know, that like you guys were saying, like, oh, there's
Yeah,
18 hours here. Like, I-
that's the
what is
biggest question that I have, is like it just seems like I can't get a solid answer. Like you've stated that your wife has what'd you say, like 7 or 8?
17
I can't remember what it
hours.
was. 17 hours. I'm sorry, and
God
you've
damn.
got what, 6, almost 6?
I've got 6,
I
and
think yeah.
I've 100% of 2 of the 6 galaxy, or 2 of the
Okay.
5 galaxies. Technically
Yeah,
there's 6.
and I've
One's the secret
and-
galaxy, but yeah.
And she's
Okay.
played it up to 88%, but beat the game, right?
She's beat the game. She's up to 94% as of right now.
She's still
17
going.
hours in. So she'll
So-
probably within the next hour or so, she'll probably round out around 18-ish hours in the game.
Gotcha. So
total
call her back in
100%ing
that
it.
time, and we'll go post.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's obviously got the hours, at least for new age games for the most part. Like 18
Right.
hours in my opinion is not that terrible. Like that's pretty good for $60. That's pretty on par with what we've seen from other titles, right?
And maybe
Right.
for this style
It's
of game
weird.
too, it's weird to compare games too, because you have very in-depth like RPGs that run you many hours numerous.
Yeah.
But
Right.
And
platformers in general
I don't
are
think
more
that I don't
linear.
think that we're, and that's the thing. Like we're not
Yeah.
comparing. We're just
No,
we're just
no, we're
going
not,
off of
no.
the fact of like
I'm just saying
that
that in a way that, like,
there was a lot of complaints about the fact that like
yeah,
Senua's Saga was short, but nobody's complaining about this being possibly short.
right.
So I've got 2 answers to that. The first one is in regard to Senua's saga in general. I feel like if the game itself was different, people wouldn't have complained that much about the length of the game. I feel like when you take a 5 or 6 hour experience and make like probably close to half of that interactive cutscenes, that's where you start having issues. The same thing with like the Order 19 or 18, whatever it was. I can't remember the
I
date,
know,
but
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
it,
Yeah,
it
I
had
know
a
what you're
similar
doing.
issue. The game was beautiful. The game, when you were actually playing it, was fun, but I think with the majority of it being interactive cutscenes, that's where people tend to have more issues with that. Taking Hellblade completely out of it, though, I genuinely I can understand where on paper this game can be beat in 5-6 hours. I can
Yeah.
understand that. You only need to get, I think, 100 of the bots to be able to get through and fight the final boss of the game, if that's what people consider beating the game. I get that. That being said, I don't understand how anybody who is genuinely enjoying this game and having a good time with it would ever short themselves of going for as much of the stuff as possible. I'm not necessarily saying 100%ing it, but like actively, like the game makes you want to go out and get it. It's that fun to play that it never feels like a chore to have to go and search through these levels for stuff that you missed. So
It definitely seems like a game built in mind of like that completion is seeking like
yeah, like what you were
exploration, like, you
saying
know,
with the old school like Spyro. It has a
Yeah.
very Spyro feel to it,
That's what
where
I get,
you're looking
yeah.
for the eggs, you're looking for all the gems, like that kind of thing.
for sure.
Yeah,
So-
I don't know, because like that was I keep going back to it. And again, this is not like, this game is not for me, right? Like I'm not a Sony player. I don't
I think
own
if
a
you played it, you would have a
PlayStation.
hell of a time with it.
I
Genuinely.
might I might, and the same can be said for Senua Saga. If I actually played Senua Saga, I would
Yeah.
probably enjoy
I mean,
it.
I love the
right?
first Hellblade. I love
Yeah.
the first Hellblade, so I'm right there with you on that.
The second one, from what I understood, was like it was 5 to 6 hours for like a quick playthrough, averaged about 6 to 9, I believe was what it was, and then for like 100% completion, it was like 8 to 12. So like they bombarded that fucking game for having, and they stuck with that 5 hour length, and nobody could fucking argue the fact that like, hey, if you 100% it, it's about 12 hours. Everybody was just like, no, it's 5 to 6 hours. Terrible
Right.
game. 5 to 6 hours, $60. Nah, fuck that. But they're singing praise for this one. Just very strange to me.
I feel like the content of the gameplay itself is more the determining factor than what
Yeah,
the game length was.
but again, you're looking at two, and I get where you're coming from. They're two different games. This is a platformer. You know, that one was more of a cinematic experience, right? It's definitely a difference. But the fact of the matter is, the both games similar fucking play hours.
Yeah.
One is getting vastly superior, vastly more shit than the other, right? It seems weird to me, and then that's just me
It
going
is
off
weird.
of a sector of like, I'm looking at it like that, right? Where I'm not looking at it with an eyes of like a Sony or an Xbox. You know, I can
for sure.
100% state that this game looks solid. I would love to play it. I'm sure that I would have an enjoyable time with it. But again, like I said, I'm sure I would have a good time with both of them, honestly. But
Man, I
Yeah,
think
the
that
only thing I can say about it is, as far as fanboyism and stuff goes, between like people, like the difference in treatment between this game and Hellblade as far as like length goes and stuff like that. At the end of the day, that hostile fanboy bullshit of PlayStation fanboys talking shit one way, Xbox fanboys talking one shit the other, doesn't really matter if the game itself isn't appealing to its own fan base. And that is a huge differentiator between what Astro Bot's doing, given what all's going on, and what Hellblade is doing. Xbox people very well could have just ignored the slander for the game, and then they might have loved it and whatnot. But something about that game, whether it was the length, whether it was the content of the game, did not generate plays.
it's also that
This
it
is-
didn't generate hype. Like they didn't fucking what's it
There's
called?
no
Advertise
They
it
didn't
all.
market it at all.
So
Yeah. So
that's one of the bigger issues. Like obviously that's one of the more, you know.
Also-
And I think
strenuous
that
issues
also
of
like
entire
misled
thing.
people to what the game was going for in the second one.
One of the
Yeah,
things
but-
too to clear air too, right? We're not, but nobody is saying that this game bad, Hellblade bad, like at least on our cast, right? Like what I think Enigma and I are kind of referencing aren't just like the general player base. Like there are, but it and Bill, I think you're absolutely right. Like if you like the game, like if you look, if you love Hellblade like Cinema Saga, you're like great, like happy for you, man. Like if this like there, I can tell you right now, I've been watching the gameplay this entire time, and I am thoroughly impressed with like the amount of detail, the different design characteristics, like all of the different things that the game is doing. Being like, yeah, you know what, they nailed. Like I would say that if I was Nintendo, I would look at this and go, motherfucker, like they just out Mario.
It goes
this.
beyond
like,
what you're seeing here too, because like not to get back like to deviate from what you're trying to say, even the music is interactive in a way. Like as you're traversing through this level, you make the tree in the beginning, it sings to you, then you go through each different area, and the different, like these little flowers that are floating out here that are the platforms, they're singing in the chorus now because you're near them. Whenever you were in the beehive, the bees are buzzing to the beat of the song and stuff. Like there's that level of interactivity,
yeah,
like auditorily, from the controller, from the gameplay itself. It's wild to me.
So and I don't want anybody in the fucking comments being like Enigma and Sin fucking hate Sony. They're always motherfucker. I got a $500 or system sitting right over here.
I'm not a big fan of Sony, but that's beside the point.
I think that the review, and I can say this for the entire show. Like we do not like reviewers on this show as far as like the mainstream cinema reviewer bullshit. Or game like review sites.
We talked about it last week. Fucking
yeah.
What's it called? Space Marine 2 gets a fucking 60, while Golem got a fucking a 63 or something like that, while Golem got like a 72 or some shit.
They don't represent the actual gamers at all.
So
crazy,
this game looks, and I'm seeing messages in chat and stuff like that. Like we are by no means saying like, hey, this game is dog shit. This game isn't. I just asked a general question because again, I saw a $60 price tag, and I'm like, I don't know. And that might be an issue that Sony maybe should clear up with like a marketing thing of being like, hey, like, this really is what we have. Like maybe allow for a demo to be played so that you can kind of get in there and kind of really, get your hands on it.
There literally is a demo in the PlayStation 5 that you bought.
I know.
That is the demo for this game.
I get that, but that's not this game. So the argument there though is that like
it is this game. This game is a much higher fidelity and much higher detail.
So then at that point, I can flip this argument and say, okay, then why do I need to spend $60 if I already have 3 hours worth of content? And that technically, if I wanted to be that asshole, I could be like, well, technically that's half of this game, so I can save myself $60 and play through it twice.
Yeah,
right? Like, so
I'm
just saying
you can.
And
but I feel like if you enjoyed that 3 hours, you would want if you enjoyed the 3 hours of Astro's Playroom and wanted more content, I don't see where you would then short yourself by speed running through the game to just say, hey, I beat it in 6 hours.
I'm not. I'm just saying that I think that there's things that I wanted more out of like that, and I don't know here. Like obviously seeing your gameplay, watching you, I'm like, okay, cool, right? But it and again, guys, this just may not be for me. Like I'm not knocking this game at all. Like it looks amazing. It looks like it sounds beautiful. Like everything you're gushing, and I'm happy for everybody, man. I'm happy that this game is fucking good.
It's one of those things that watching it doesn't do it justice, I don't think, but I also understand that it's kid game coded. So if that's not your kind of thing, if you've grown past the platformer phase of things or just never liked them to begin with, I can understand where this would be a pass for you. For me, I love that shit. When the Spyro trilogy came out, you guys know I did a 24-hour stream 100%ing all of those. This is my kind of shit. This hits me like right here in the heart, and I am enjoying every second that I play it.
And they should, and I'm happy.
There's a lot of sus looking things in this game. I'm sorry to point that out. What is this dingly mushroom thing? What's going on?
Mushroom.
It's just a fucking mushroom, you dirty bastard. What the fuck?
I'm sorry, man. Part of the PP podcast.
Anyway, I am very I'm ecstatic that we actually have a game that we can talk about, like, because we've had a couple of those over the last couple of months or weeks that have really been like, hey, this game is extremely good. You've got this, you've got Space Marine 2, you've got Black Myth Wukong. What I like the WoW expansion. Like it's been a really good set of just solid weeks, and I'm ecstatic for being a gamer like that makes me happy. I just had
Yeah.
questions
Sorry.
again about the price point and
Yeah.
the
For
you
sure,
know,
and
just
that's
time-wise.
understandable.
It looks
Yeah,
like a
real-
solid game. The price point, it just might be a little steep, just because like I don't know. I mean, like
I don't know, man. Like I'm
Well,
thinking back to
definitely
we-
tell the quality
before
and
we-
everything is there. You know, like
before we
I-
get too deep into it, yeah, like we're getting stuff like like length of game doesn't necessarily
yeah,
dictate quality. That's like 100. We're not arguing with that. I'm not
No,
stating
yeah.
that they are correct when it comes down to that. I found it kind of funny that it was one game was generally the same time frame, got a shit ton of fucking bad reviews for being that time frame, but this one generally being the same time frame, getting nothing but praise pretty much. It's
I
weird.
don't know.
It's
I
fucking
think
weird.
this game would have thrived even if it was down to like maybe even $50. I think it would even gained sales off of that. I don't know. It's a beautiful game. I think it's very well crafted just from the looks of it. I personally would probably pay the 60, but I think there's a lot of people who are just stuck behind that threshold of that $60 price point. But I don't know.
I mean,
I doubt it. I'm
I
pretty
didn't blink
sure
an eye
that.
at it.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I was about to say. Is when
well-
it comes down to like PlayStation and PlayStation players, they're gonna buy it regardless, just because it is PlayStation.
Yeah,
So-
and I don't think Bill, I don't think that you're that audience that maybe like Scruffy is talking about, like where I like, for instance, I am one of those like you saw it, you knew it, you were like, this is on my 100%, I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna grab it, I want it, right? That is the audience. Awesome. This is like your fucking bread and butter jam. Love it. Oh, they're speaking to your heart. That's great.
Yeah.
The
All for
things
it,
that
man.
like the things that I think Scruffy is hitting toward is more of the player like me. Like if this game was $40, I would have hit it all day long, right? I would have been like,
Mhm.
yep, absolutely, I'll fucking drop 40 right now, right? For the game. Not saying that it should be 40. I'm just saying that if it was 40, I would have bought it. At 60, I now go into, especially when the economy is dog shit or whatever, it's like, hey, like $60, that is X amount of months of WoW for me, or that is another game that
I don't know, bro. I think you'd have a fucking better
Shut
deal
up.
playing
I'm
this than
just
WoW.
saying in
Just
general,
gonna
like-
put that out there.
but that is and again, it's
Yeah.
not knocking this game specifically for it. I'm just I guess my whole thing was like, again, if it's worth $60 for you, awesome, and I'm happy that it seems like there is at least a decent amount of content there, or good enough of content to warrant the pricing, and the game is phenomenal. So happy.
I'll just put it out there right now. The last thing that I'll say about it, I watched you play a lot of this. Well, not a ton of it. I think I watched you play up until like the middle of the zone. Loved it. I was enjoying it the entire time. So like I'm not saying the game's bad. Game looks fun, looks enjoyable. If I had a PlayStation, I'd probably play it.
And
Yeah,
kudos,
for sure.
honestly,
Agreed.
and I want the rest of the gaming industry to take note of stuff like this. You make a good game. You make a game. I said it last week. I'll say it again. Game good. Like game
game.
worth money. Good
Equals
game.
play.
Yeah.
People play.
Mhm.
Bad
Yeah.
game. People don't
People
play.
don't play. So I'm just saying, like,
And the best
it's
thing for me about it
perfect.
is I can plug my disc in and play it without an internet connection. It's 100% there on the disc,
Mm-mm.
and that is wonderful. But
So they take your
even-
display drive away from you, Bill.
Yeah.
and we'll get to that later. But they also do have a roadmap for post-launch support with the game. They're going to be adding bonus missions and stuff like bonus
That's
levels,
dope.
bonus
That's cool.
characters. They're also going to be
Is
adding
that-
a like
now
leaderboards and a
that-
speed run mode that
Did
you
they
can
say
do.
it was going to be free content or
It's all free
paid?
content. Yep.
And
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Is a huge plus. I mean that could definitely justify the $60.
So
in my
this,
case,
if they can go down that route and
Yeah.
they can kind of garner the, what would be really cool is if they went
Like
down
Mario
the
Maker?
Sackboy route. No, well that
Mhm.
too, yeah. But if they went down to like the Sackboy route where they allowed people to like
Community.
make the
Well, that's
the
also
actual
like Mario
things,
Maker. Yeah.
Mhm.
would be huge, dude.
Yeah.
Would be
I
fucking
agree.
huge, dude.
I don't know if they'll do it, but it would.
I don't
be
think they
huge.
will, but, it
But
would
as
be
of right
fucking
now, what they've got planned
Ambitious,
is
but yeah.
bonus characters with bonus
Nice.
for bonus levels and speed running of levels to unlock bonus characters as well, and global leaderboards.
You think
so?
you think they'll add in extra bots as their new IPs come into play?
I
Like they'll
wouldn't
add
be
in new IP bots?
I wouldn't be
Either that
surprised.
or this is their new this
What
is their
fucking
new
new IP?
mascot. This is not going to be the first game in the
Well,
franchise.
That's actually what I was going to ask, and leading up to closing Astro Bot's book, at least for the pre-batch podcast right now, so we can move on to other topics. But
Yeah.
I have two questions for you, Bill, and one is going off of what Scruffy just said. Do you is this Mario level mascot? Because I feel like Sony has been hunting for this. They had God of War for a while. Kratos was it for a long time. Last of Us for whatever fucking reason.
Those were a lot more mature mascots, though. I think this is your global mascot, and I think
for sure.
I think that they have something here, genuinely. I think the Astro Bots, maybe not necessarily the character itself, but like the bot-ized versions of the Sony franchise. Like
it's their pops, their Funkos of
their
Sony.
Funkos, their Legos, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And it's definitely friendly. It's that mascot image that I could. I'm not a big Sony fanboy anymore, but I can see it. I think they did find what they were looking for finally.
Good. Good for them. Again, I mean, like I said, they tried doing Crash Bandicoot a long time. Like Crash was it for a while back in the 90s and early 2000s, and you had God of War, Last of Us, and now and Sackboy had its run, but I think it was killed off pretty quick.
Yeah, this is like Sackboy, but effective.
Cool.
In my opinion.
Here's my last question with this. So you played the same game that I'm playing, which is right now probably the number one contender for game of the year, as far as the award show that's going to go, not our pre-patch
Space Marine too,
right? Okay, sure, Space Marine. Okay, but anyway, do you played them both? Do you think? And I don't necessarily give it away, but do you think this has the chops to put Black Myth Wukong away? And this be the game of the year?
It will definitely be in the conversation.
With Sony behind it, yeah.
It'll definitely be in the conversation.
I had to say it because we obviously know there has been some Sony bias.
I mean, if Spider-Man 2 was in the game of the year running last year, then this is definitely going to be in game of the year running this year.
Do you think that this has the chops to put it down?
Potentially. I don't.
Okay.
Potentially.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that. I guess in a couple months.
Stick around for the Game of the Year podcast.
Yeah.
You know what's really the shitty thing about that too is because if this does take it, it probably totally does deserve it. But all it's gonna get, and even from it's gonna be Sony pay them. Sony this, Sony that.
I mean, it's let me. I've not touched this fucking game at all, and obviously I've watched Bill play it. But it's gonna be fucking hard to swallow Black Myth Wukong getting fucking ousted. By any game. Like I don't give a fuck whether it's. I mean, again, not saying that this doesn't deserve it, but
true. Yeah, any
fuck
game.
me, man.
But I'm just saying, if this takes it, that's coming, and it might.
Let's be real.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Neither of these games, Black Myth Wukong or this, are going to fucking win it. It's going to be Space Marine 2
you're fucking high.
You know what?
And or fucking Helldivers 2. Let's be real.
It's Helldivers.
It's going to be Helldivers 2.
Well, then they'll still get the Sony pony fanboyism that's going to come with it. So, all right.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed the patch notes. And if you want to see more from the Pre-Patch Podcast, don't forget to check us out live every Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, or at anchor.fm/Pre-Patch Podcast, or wherever podcasts are listened to. Hope to see you there. Much love.